Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen Buerta, for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
Awesome. Welcome back. Shireen here, your virtual boutique bookkeeper and QuickBooks Pro advisor. Are you tired of generic bookkeeping services that leave you in the dark? Well, at Shireen's Bookkeeping Services, we pride ourselves on open and transparent communication. You always know what's happening in your books. Plus, we customize our relationships to fit your unique business needs, ensuring you get the personal touch you deserve. I'm Shireen Buerta. We're a boutique bookkeeping business that keeps your books clean. You know it, so you don't have to. So if you want to know more, go check me out at www.shireensbookkeeping.com and allow me to keep your books clean so you don't have to. That's right. Welcome back. You are listening to Friends from Wild Places with myself, Shireen, and my amazing co-host, Tanya. Tanya, how are you doing? What news from Miami? And do you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about the subscriptions, if you don't mind?
Sure. So welcome, everybody. Good morning. We're glad to be here. Another episode of Friends from Wild Places podcast, where we provide monthly podcasts and get someone's story out in the world. So if you're that person, let us know and we'll be happy to share your story. So at Friends from Wild Places, we do have a paid subscription for as little as $5 a month. You can actually get raw, unedited material. We can go dive deeper on subjects that maybe you have more interest in. So always for minimum $5, you can support us more if you choose. But $5 a month will get you the paid subscription behind the firewalls. So that's what we have going on here. Exciting in 2026. A lot of guests, upcoming featured guests. So we're super excited. So back to you, Shireen.
Thank you, Tanya. That was amazing. So yes, listeners, Michael Perie is our amazing guest for the month, and we're super excited to introduce him. He is a husband, a father of a son and daughter, a pastor, an educator, and with 28 years in the funeral industry, he brings a wealth of knowledge to any room. MP Educates was created to offer teaching and educational tools to young and experienced funeral professions. Hello, welcome. It's so good to have you here, Michael.
Good morning. Thank you all for allowing me to be here.
Yes,
We're
well,
super excited to have you share your journey. I'm so excited for this podcast.
love it.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Okay, well, you also know that this time of the podcast, we love to just chat about some true crime that's going on. Like, what is going on? Some of the most juiciest crimes are actually up and rolling right now. So I'm trying to keep up with them all, and it's quite interesting. So this one specifically caught my eye. And it's the case of Paul Canero, often referred to the Colts Neck mansion murders. It's currently the center of a high-profile trial in New Jersey. And just let's get the summary of the case for you listeners so you can get up to date with us. So November the 20th, 2018, firefighters discovered the bodies of Keith Canero, his wife Jennifer, and two children, Jesse 11, Sophia 8, at their estate in Colts Neck. Keith was found shot on the front lawn while his wife and children were found inside the burning mansion. Investigators determined the children had been stabbed repeatedly. Earlier the same morning, a fire was reported at Paul Canero's own home in Ocean Township while his wife and daughters were inside. Prosecutors allege Paul set both fires, his own to create the illusion that the entire family was being targeted, and his brothers to cover up the quadruple homicide. Oh, it's been a long time since I've, covered a quadruple homicide. My goodness, it's crazy. So the trial ongoing since January 2026. The prosecution's theory is they argue Paul was driven by greed and desperation. Keith had reportedly discovered that money was missing from their shared technology and pest control businesses and had threatened to cut Paul off financially. Prosecutors also pointed to a 1.5 million life insurance policy as a secondary motive. Key evidence. Key evidence is the evidence presented includes bloody clothing and a knife found in Paul's basement containing the victim's DNA, as well as ballistics linking a gun in his home to the weapon used to kill Keith. Now, the defense's stance. Paul's attorneys maintain his innocence, claiming police tunnel vision. They have attempted to shift suspicion towards a third brother, Corey, who they claim also stood to benefit financially and was never fully investigated. The question I want to ask the room is, in a case where the physical evidence, like DNA on a murder weapon found in the defendant's own basement, seems so definitive, how much weight should a jury give to the defense's third-party liability theory? And does the sheer brutality of a crime against one's own family actually make a financial motive harder for a jury to believe? Good question, hey? Tanya, should we begin with you? What do you think?
Sure, sure. So, what's interesting in the cases here in the States is the fact that the jury is only presented with certain information. So a lot of times what is presented outside or media, the jury itself does not have all of that material. And they have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think that's another shadow. Like, even though we could sit here and argue saying that DNA is definitive, they could argue, to say he was cleaning his gun and that's why the DNA is on there, or, he was doing something with his knife and he happened to cut himself, or, there's always some other defense, so to speak. So I just think, again, between the media, what the facts of the case are, and again, literally, we've seen so many people that have actually, like, we know in our hearts that have done it, but they can't, quote unquote, prove it based on beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt. So I think that's probably what we're dealing with. But again, the motive, it's usually, money is a big, greed factor, huge, when you start seeing like life insurance policies and other things, business, money laundering or different things. I think, yeah, it's an interesting case. As quadruple, homicide, but it's again, you would think it's a lock, stock, and barrel case, but I think there's more that goes on behind the scenes for them to prove it.
True.
How about you, Michael? How about you?
I think it's a very, I want to say, strange case, because the media, like you said, the media can turn a guilty person into a non-guilty person, or a non-guilty person into a guilty person. And looking upon this and watching it and reading through everything, me personally be like, oh, he did it. And then they start showing different evidence and how he was here, but how he was there. And so, trying to put all this together, and now you have a jury who, sits there and holding someone's, guilty, not guilty verdict in their hand. That's like I said, rather strange, difficult. It could be frustrating to those who are on the defensive side and those who are on the other side. And I also think that money, I think that can cause, greed. I think that can cause jealousy, anger. So you could look at it from that point of view as well. That's how I was looking at it. So maybe he was upset that he wasn't connected anymore, and he wanted to show his brother, hey, I'll show you. I'm going to get money anyway with you not being here. I'll get paid, and things like that. So being able to kind of look at this, and you on a seesaw. That's kind of what it's like to me, like a seesaw, back and forth. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
That's very true.
Interesting. How about you, Shireen? What's your take?
Mine's going to be simple because I'm always on the evidence never lies. I've always been like that. And the evidence don't lie. I really think that the evidence says all it needs to say. And just because simply every person has to go through a fair trial, that he is like no other person, he does need to go through a fair trial. But I personally think he's guilty. Just simply because of the evidence, nothing more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, with that said, I want to just move on to the quotes of the day. I think we've got an amazing quotes of the day. Michael was gracious enough to share his own, which he has shared with us, and it's God gives us a definition. All right, let me repeat that. God gives us a definition. So, Michael, would you mind just sharing with us and the listeners what that means to you and how,
Sure.
how it's impacted you?
Sure. So God gives us a definition. I was, studying one day and I was learning and reading through the Bible and seeing how this kind of affected me. God gives us a definition, and what is the definition? The definition that He gives us is a proverb, which is truth. I said, okay, so a proverb is wisdom. So okay, and you have wisdom because you have gained knowledge, and then you have knowledge because you have an understanding. And then if you turn it around and flip it and go back the other way, so now that you have the knowledge, now that you have the understanding, you have knowledge in a situation. And then once you have the knowledge, you start gaining wisdom. You make wise choices. You're able to do stuff in a very particular way. And then once you have that wisdom, and what is wisdom? It's a proverb. And basically, proverb is a true saying. So God gives us a true saying. He gives us Himself. We just have to be mindful and know that that's what He's doing when He's giving us a definition. He's basically giving us Himself, and He's already given us Himself through His Son Jesus. So what that means to me is that I kind of keep my eye focused on the definition of what that means, and then it carries me through to always be mindful to make sure I'm getting understanding in whatever the capacity that I'm in, getting the knowledge and having the wisdom, and then I'll be able to teach on it and share truth and learn truth and walk by truth. And I think and I know that's what pleases Him. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it means to me.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
Michael, if you don't mind, I just want to ask a little deeper question, just so our listeners can, we're going to hear your full story, today.
Do
But
it.
yeah, I just have a question. Like, as far as, were you brought up as a religious man, like in a religious family, to select a favorite quote that's religious, or is that something that evolved? If you don't mind sharing.
Good question.
No problem. That was something that evolved. I was brought up going to church, shall I say. So I'm in church. I'm there just because parents tell you to go there. Not really, catching a hold to anything, just there. You follow the trend, one person going up to get baptized. Oh, let me go up too. Yeah, I feel like, but not really knowing the full meaning of all of that, what all that means. So as years evolved and I evolved and start again gaining understanding, knowledge, and wisdom, that put me in a place to know for myself what I needed to do and where that, like I said, that quote came from. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
kind of where, yeah.
Where it evolved. And how long has it always been your favorite quote? Because it's interesting how, Shireen and I, we always ask our, guests, what, like, share a favorite quote. So how did that evolve to be your favorite quote, or was it always your favorite quote?
It has evolved, just like me, just
like you. Okay, so the quotes evolved. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. And since we're on your background, would you mind just sharing with us a little bit more about who you are? Like more of your background. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I'll hit a few different areas. So of course we'll go ahead and talk about the pastor stuff. So my wife and I, we founded a church back in 16 or 17. Well, we started on the streets, doing the missions out there with the homeless and less fortunate people. So we started there for a couple of years, and it's kind of evolved into being able to, teach and minister social media wise, and just, abroad, not just to people who are here connected in the United States, but even abroad into other countries, even in Africa. People have connected in with us. So we've been doing it now for probably about 10 years in our pastoral role. Um, Husband, of course, I've been married. My wife and I, will be 24 years coming up in August. Um, I tell people that, and some say, "Well, you don't look like you're that old," but I'm 47, um, and we'll be married 24 years coming up. Our son is 22, and our daughter is 20. Um, Education. I've kind of been in that for some years now, educating kind of on both sides in the funeral, on the funeral side and the ministry side, and just kind of like as a mentor to, like, younger people or to men or to apprentices in funeral industry. Um, and then we have the funeral person. I guess you can call me that, the funeral professional. Been doing this for 28 years. I started back in 1998. 1998, where my at the time he was my mentor, and he said, well, if you're really interested in doing this, then before you go to school, why don't you come by and let's let you see what it kind of looks like. I said, okay. So he called me one morning. I was like, and I'm not used to getting up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but that's what the funeral industry involved. And so I go there, and I started gaining interest. I was like, I think I may like this, because I was always curious in biology class when we dissected frogs, cats, worms. So that was just a curiosity to me. So when he brought me up and allowed me to see the embalming process, and then he called me again a few days later, I said, I think I'm gonna go to school for this. So went to school for it, and here I am 28 years later. Yeah.
Now, did you always want to be in the funeral industry, or is it something that came along
No,
afterwards?
no, no. So um, I played college basketball, right? And when my senior year was about to be over with, I was sent a letter to go to an NBA camp, Utah Jazz. So went out there and did the tryout and all that stuff that they have you do, and it was exciting. That was my thing, NBA. I want to play basketball. Did that, but I'd already signed up for mortuary school, and this the summertime. I'm like, they haven't reached back out to me. What should I do? So I went ahead and packed up and drove to mortuary school. Got there. I'm in class. Now, mind you, I've went to 4 years of college before this. Never made a 100 on a test at all. The first test I take in mortuary school, which was pathology, I made a 100 on it. I was like, whoa, okay, well, maybe this is something I'm supposed to be doing. So a letter finally comes. And when it comes, I open it up, I read it. Oh, yes, this is so exciting. My face goes from, because I get to the bottom and they're saying, okay, well, now you have to find an agent. You have to pay this amount. You have to do all, and I couldn't do any of those things. I was like, but this is so I sat there. I said, okay, Lord, if you would make me one of the best in this funeral industry, I'll go forward in doing it, and I don't want to have any regrets. So I sat there on the side of the bed. I'm all up. I'm in mortuary school. I sat there and I balled up the paper. It's like, man. And I just shied over into the trash can. It went in. I said, okay, let's go. So that was my passion, basketball. And then it changed. It evolved. I evolved. Let's use that word. I evolved. And now I'm in this for the long haul. So.
Awesome. Michael, can you just share, so where were you like born and raised, and where did you go to mortuary school?
I was born in Wynne, Arkansas, raised in Wynne,
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Yeah.
Okay,
And
okay.
Arkansas. And I went to mortuary school in Mountain Home, Arkansas, at Arkansas State University there. So I'm an Arkansan, shall I say?
Arkansas. Okay. I heard of these places like Texarkana, like these,
Yeah.
unique names, but that's interesting. Very interesting. So you had the ministry background, your funeral background, which you just shared, and the education as far as, having your own, evolve, like that's the word of the day,
Right.
into your education. How did the education piece, like, because it sounds like you and your wife with the ministry have been
Yeah.
educators in that realm. How did you take that into the mortuary world?
Hmm. Well, this is a funny story. It just kind of happened. So, wearing the many hats, I would call myself, you know how we know about FEMA,
Hmm.
how they help. I would call myself being a part of FEMA, Funeral Educational Ministry Association.
Wow, you got your own FEMA going on.
Yeah, right. So being in the middle of education, being able to educate or teach in ministry, but the being able to educate and teach in the funeral industry, that came from I was working at a funeral home. It was back in 2009. I was working at a funeral home in Memphis, Tennessee, and the owner lady, she said, "Hey, I'm hiring some help, some apprentices here." I said, "Okay." So she hired in two of them. She said, "She's okay. Go ahead and teach them and show them." I'm like, "What? I don't know what." Not knowing that I could, but so we go to the prep room and I do stuff like, okay, I take out stuff like embalming fluid, right? And I'm putting all the different, indexes and all the different colors, and I start showing them uh, how to mix it and what it means. But I use the reference of Kool-Aid, like more sugar you put in, the more stronger it's going to be. The less sugar you put in, the weaker it's going to be. So I'm going through that process with them, and it kind of started there, and they were looking at me like. But one of them was in mortuary school, and the other one was getting ready to go. So they were kind of like, "Well, we're not really learning this in school." I said, "Well, I'm going to try to teach you a lot of stuff that you're probably not going to learn in school because you're gonna hear about it." I said, "But it's going to be certain things you're going to get at, like and be able to, okay, how do I really mix the chemicals?" I said, "They'll teach you about it." I said, "But you won't really know until you do it." So being able to kind of go through that process with them, um, and to kind of see the fruits of the labor after that. So both of those young ladies, one of them now, some years ago, she opened up her own funeral home. So now she's a funeral home owner.
Wow.
And the other one is the head program director at a mortuary program here in South Haven, Mississippi. The other one is the funeral home owner in Memphis, Tennessee. So being able to kind of take them as far as I could take them, and then stand here and then just, hey, push them along and say, "Hey, now y'all go." And to be able to watch them go and do that, that just brings, such joy, and being able to watch them do that is so amazing. But you have to be in educating, you have to be honestly have to be in a position where none of that stuff bothers you if you're educating somebody or teaching someone, because you're trying to make them better. And honestly, you want to try to make them better than you so that they can go in and do something and do greater things. So being able to watch them do better and greater things is, like I said, it's heartwarming. To me, it's very, very amazing. So that's where my education started at. I was just kind of thrown into it back in 2009. So
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to bring up the sore subject, but what happened to the basketball? Do you still play basketball? Anything there, or what
you know,
happened there with basketball?
Good
so
question.
the last time I shot a basketball was Christmas Day. I was just out and I was just shooting. But before then, I couldn't. Dr. T, I couldn't tell you when the last time I shot a basketball before then. But I watch it, all the time, and
Yeah.
on TV. But as far as playing, I mean, you feel like you can. I feel like I can, go out there, but my body says something different. And I'm like, what is this? What is going on? Why am I aching? All I was doing was, shooting, and so I guess the age thing does catch up with you. So
All right.
yeah.
Well, mind over matter. So I don't know. We got to kind of keep you in the realm of shooting some baskets out there.
That. Yeah,
Right.
Yes, thank you, Michael. I appreciate you
Yeah,
sharing that
yeah.
with us. It's quite an interesting story. And
Tune in next week for part 2 from Friends from Wild Places.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Bueta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.